Good afternoon and welcome back everyone to Moneycontrol live stream. You're watching the closing bell. I'm Santosh Nair.
And I'm Yatin Mota.
Bulls continue to maintain the winning streak on Dalal Street. Both the BSE and NSE closing higher for the third successive trading session, but it was largely the mid-cap stocks that stole the show. Adani stocks had yet another good day at the bourses today. However, most of them closed well off the day's highs. Among the big gainers of the day, we had mainly stocks from the IT and auto sectors, whereas PSU, bank and realty shares continued to struggle for direction for the second day running. The India Volatility Index was up slightly, about 0.5% to 12.24, and among the prominent Nifty gainers today, we had Adani Enterprises, Tata Motors, ONGC, NTPC and Power Grid, while among the prominent losers of the day, we had Britannia, Hindalco, JSW Steel, Tech Mahindra and IndusInd Bank.
So, Santo, if you notice, the PSU stocks were in focus today, especially the likes of NTPC, Power Grid, ONGC. One thing for our viewers that on 17th March, there will be a Bharat 22 ETF rebalancing, and these three stocks, namely NTPC, Power Grid and ONGC, will see a weight up. So, the weightage will go up and there will be some buying to the tune of 150-200 crores on an average for these stocks, and hence today we saw some uptick coming in for all of them. Obviously, on the sell side we have private sector stocks like Axis Bank, ITC, as well as other names which will be witnessing some bit of selling. But yes, the Bharat 22 ETF rebalancing is something that we'll be watching out for on 17th of March.
Well, Yatin, could you just explain for the benefit of our readers, why does this rebalancing exactly happen?
So, typically what happens is that when there is a ETF, the weight of the index usually changes because most of the indices work on the free float mechanism. Now, what happens is during the review period, when the stocks move up substantially, the market cap or the free float also changes accordingly. So, the companies wherein the free float factor increases or there is a market capitalization change or a methodology which the index follows, the weight has to be adjusted every quarter or every 6 months or every 1 year according to the plan of the ETF or the plan of the index. So, what happens is typically when stocks like NTPC, Power Grid, and ONGC move higher in trade, there is a high chance that the weight changes. So, when the reset date comes and when the announcement is happening, they give a list of stocks wherein the weightage will go up or down. If you look at Axis Bank, if you look at ITC, they have recently come off from the recent highs it made, and the free float factor also reduced. So, for that the weight gets cut, and for the stocks wherein the momentum is higher or the market capitalization is higher or there is a promoter OFS because of which the free float factor increases, these are several factors because of which there are weight changes across ETFs or indices for that matter, not particularly for Bharat 22, but yes, across indices and ETF, this probable thumb rule applies.
Well, thank you for that detailed explanation, Yatin. But even the rebalancing apart, clearly we are seeing a preference for many of the utility and PSU bank names, yes. PSU stocks, not PSU banks. PSU banks were under pressure today. So, that kind of indicates a defensive mentality of the market at this point in time, where the first immediate strategy seems to be to shift to safety, high dividend yield stocks and stocks which give steady returns. So, that is something according to players will continue to be the theme till the overall there is some clarity on overall where the market is headed. That said, let us quickly move on to the stocks on our watch list this afternoon, beginning with Clean Science and Technology. This was in the mid-cap stocks, in the mid-cap space. This was among the key gainers, rising close to about 3%. Now, the stock has come off sharply from its highs seen in April last year. It is down by almost 33%. High valuations was one of the reasons, but other than that, there were concerns that demand from Europe would take a hit because of the war, and clearly there was some concerns about that demand from the Europe would get hit, and that led to pressure on the stock. But 1 year on, that does not seem to be the case. Demand from Europe has held up pretty well according to Moneycontrol Pro, which is positive on the stock. The other development is that BASF has selectively closed down some of its plants in Germany, and it is now serving its clients out of other markets, Asia being one of them. So, clearly India stands to benefit from this trend. The third point is that, according to Moneycontrol, is that the company has commissioned its third plant for the hindered amine light stabilizers. Clean Science and Technology is the only Indian company to have commercialized this technology. Besides that, performance of the performance of its performance material products such as MEHQ and BHA have also been doing well. Lastly, Clean Science and Technology has about 280 crore of cash on its book and hence is able to fund most of its capex internally. According to analyst Anubhav Sahu, at about 32 times EV to EBITDA for FY24, the stock is little expensive. It's definitely not cheap, despite the fact that it has come up by close to about 30% from its peak. But the argument here is that clearly there are entry barriers in the space which Clean Science and Technology operates, and besides that, it also has certain technology advantages, technology edge compared to peers, and that's why this kind of valuations actually look justified.
Santosh, if you look at most of these new IPOs, थोड़ा बहुत यहाँ करेक्शन हमको देखने तो मिला है. अपॉर्चुनिटी कैसी होगी, अर्निंग्स कैसी होगी तो टाइम ही बताएगा. लेकिन हाँ, जो भी नए IPOs आए हैं, यहाँ एक कंडीशन है, अगर IPO ने अर्निंग्स नहीं बताई हैं, प्रॉफिट ग्रोथ नहीं बताया है, तो ज़ोरदार पिटाई आपको पिछले 12 महीने में देखने मिली है. ऑब्वियसली क्लीन साइंस का शेयर भी देखें तो 52 वीक हाई से ऑफ है, लेकिन जैसे सेंटो बता रहे हैं, यूनिक अपॉर्चुनिटी है और यूनिक काम ये कंपनी करती है, एक मोट है. तो शायद अगर इनको ऑर्डर्स मिलें और विजिबिलिटी रहे, स्पेशली एक्सपोर्ट मार्केट से, तो कहीं ना कहीं इनके अर्निंग्स में भी ज़बरदस्त ग्रोथ आपको देखने को मिल सकती है.
इंटरेस्टिंगली, वन ऑफ द पॉइंट दैट अनुभव साहू मेंशन्ड इन इट्स नोट इज दैट फॉर द HALS plant, they've already got 1,000 ton of orders to be met over the next 9 months, and the capacity of the plant is about 2,000 tons. So clearly the ramp up is likely to be faster than expected.
Absolutely. और एक स्टॉक जो फोकस में था, सैंटो तो क्लीन साइंस के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, लेकिन हम क्लीन एनर्जी के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. MGL महानगर गैस, ये एक स्टॉक है, एक एक्विजिशन इन्होंने आज किया और इस एक्विजिशन के जरिए इनको कर्नाटका और महाराष्ट्र में काफ़ी सारे शहरों में गैस डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन नेटवर्क को बिल्ड करने का मौका मिलेगा. ऑब्वियसली परसेप्शन ये था कि महानगर गैस में ग्रोथ नहीं आ रही है, जैसे नए नए जो शहर हैं वहाँ बिडिंग बहुत एग्रेसिव नहीं कर रही है MGL, लेकिन ये एक्विजिशन के बाद शायद थोड़ी बहुत स्ट्रैटेजी चेंज मार्केट ने भापी है. आज स्टॉक इंट्राडे में लगभग 8% से ज़्यादा ऊपर था और कहीं ना कहीं बहुत ही ज़बरदस्त मार्केट ने इस एक्विजिशन को थम्स अप दिया है. सिटी की यहाँ एक बाय रेटिंग है, टारगेट है 1030. तो कहीं ना कहीं गैस स्टॉक्स पे फोकस है, खास करके MGL में, जिन्होंने इनऑर्गेनिक रूट यानी एक्विजिशंस, एक नई कंपनी खरीद के नए नए मार्केट्स को एक्सेस करने की कोशिश की है.
HDFC AMC is the before I get on to HDFC AMC, I think just one point there, since you mentioned that Citi note, this is the first acquisition by MGL.
Yes.
And Citi has mentioned that it is not exactly cheap at this point in time, but then probably you also flagged the fact that the growth has been much slower and it had to take this move. Secondly, also because of gas prices softening a bit, overall sentiment towards the sector has changed a bit I would say, because there's no dramatic improvement at this point in time, but definitely it's much better than what it was till some months back. Yeah. HDFC AMC is the last stock on my watch list. The stock appeared to be on the comeback trail just a couple of months back. It had fallen to about 1700 odd levels in June. From there it rallied to about 2300. That was close to a gain of nearly about 30% between June and November, but since then the stock has started coming off again, and that's a little surprising considering that the December quarter earnings showed some signs of improvement. The revenue numbers were the highest in many quarters, and also the net profit of around 369 crores was the highest since December 2020. The company has HDFC AMC has been able to maintain its operating profit margins at close to about 74%. But where I guess, Yatin, it's not just been just a case with HDFC AMC, it's one of those rare cases where the industry is doing well. People are buying the products, but the companies themselves do not seem to be benefiting much.
I think probable reason, Santo, could be the regulatory action, because the regulator has been really after the AMC lives to cut down on commissions, introduce direct plans, and I think a lot of these commissions and advances to distributors, all of these juggleries which AMC companies were giving at one point in time to chase aggressive growth. I think with margins thinning down, even SEBI has put caps on how AMCs can advertise and spend their money as a percentage of fees. So I think the street is really concerned that if further capping on mutual fund margins or commissions do come in, then the growth could be hampered to a certain extent.
The latest move has been the curbing of incentives for the B30 scheme,
yes,
which they had been enjoying for a while. So a bit of a tricky spot there, but Yatin, a couple of things that could well go in HDFC AMC's favor is that majority of its funds had been underperforming, which was one of the reasons why the stock also had underperformed quite a bit. There seems to be some respite on that front, and going forward in an uncertain market, so probably actively managed funds perhaps have a better chance, considering that so far much of the action was happening in the passive fund space, where HDFC AMC does not have much of it as strong a presence as some of the other players like Nippon. But now that we are moving into a choppy market, perhaps here is a opportunity for HDFC AMC to probably score a point and show that actually actively managed funds can do much better.
Absolutely. And the last stock on our radar today is Nykaa, और ये कंपनी है जहां मक्वेरी ने एक इनिशिएटिंग कवरेज रिपोर्ट निकाली है 115 रुपए के टारगेट के साथ. आपको अगर याद है तो कुछ दिनों पहले पेटीएम पे मक्वेरी ने रिपोर्ट्स निकाली थी, और कहीं ना कहीं जो मक्वेरी का व्यू था उस टैंडम में आपको स्टॉक प्राइसेस गिरते हुए नज़र आए. तो कहीं ना कहीं मार्केट को ये भी बिलीव होता है कि अब नायका पे रिपोर्ट आई है मक्वेरी की, तो कितनी सच होगी, कितने टारगेट्स मीट होंगे, ये तो टाइम ही बताएगा. लेकिन नायका का एक 3 पॉइंटर इशू है कंपनी के साथ. नंबर 1, कंपटीशन जो है ब्यूटी सेगमेंट में वो एग्रेसिव हो रहा है. इन्होंने एक स्टोर विजिट किया नायका का, और स्टोर एक्सपीरियंस भी कुछ खास नहीं था, जो उनको लगता है एक बहुत बड़ा हर्डल हो सकता है आगे जाके ग्रोथ पे. और तीसरा इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट ये है कि मार्जिन्स पे आपको इम्पैक्ट आता वो दिखाई पड़ सकता है, क्योंकि कंपनी के बहुत ही एग्रेसिव इन्वेस्टमेंट प्लान्स हैं, एक्सपेंशन प्लान्स हैं, मार्केटिंग प्लान्स हैं. तो कैश जो जनरेट होगा या प्रॉफिट जनरेट होंगे वो शायद इतने ज़्यादा नहीं होंगे, क्योंकि कंपनी अभी भी एक इन्वेस्टमेंट फेज से गुजर रही है. तो ये 3-4 रीजंस की वजह से मक्वेरी अंडरवेट है नायका में, और जैसे कि पहले मैंने कहा टारगेट 115 का है. सैंटो,
well, some till about a couple of months back, a few months at least before its ill opportune bonus issue, the company could have gotten away with a lot of things. But now that the spotlight is shining bright on almost all the new age companies, the investors have become quite demanding there. So any slip up is likely to be met with harsh punishment. That seems to be the case not just with Nykaa, but also all the new age companies where investors are becoming increasingly demanding. Well, and with that, it's a wrap on this episode of Closing Bell. Thank you for watching.
जुड़ने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
We'll be back again on Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Tomorrow, markets will remain closed on account of Holi. Have a great holiday.
Holiday, absolutely.